So hi everyone. I'm going to wait a little bit longer just to see if anyone is still trying to log in, and then we'll get started. All right, cool. Right, let's get started. So hi everyone, my name is Evelyn. If you've attended one of these online sessions with MyTutor before in maths, you've probably seen me before. I am a university student studying maths. I'm studying towards my master's degree. And today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at solving linear equations. Now, over the next 3 days, we'll be doing sort of like a solving equations sort of mini course. So today it's linear equations, tomorrow it will be simultaneous equations, and then on Wednesday it will be quadratic equations. And we will be going through some past paper exam questions as well. We'll be going through some different types of questions, which you might have seen before, you might not have seen before. But if you do have any questions, make sure to put them in the Q&A. I will be asking questions throughout the session as well. So your answers, I'd like you to put them in the chat. And yeah, don't feel shy to ask any questions if you do have any along the way. So we're going to get started. So today we will be solving simple linear equations, solving harder linear equations, and going through some problem solving examples as well. So starting with the simple linear equations. So to solve linear equations in general, what we do is we want to get x, or the letter, by itself on one side. So x equals, and then the number on the other side. Now, the method to do this is to remove a number, we must do the inverse operation on both sides of the equal sign. So let's go through an example to see how to do that. So if we look at the one down here on the bottom left, we've got x plus 11 equals 42. So I want to get x by itself. Now x is on the left hand side, but so is 11. So I need to get rid of that 11. Now to do that, because I'm adding 11 on the left hand side, I need to do the opposite, which is subtract 11, and I have to do it on both sides. So I've got x equals, and I've got 42 minus 11, so that would give me 31. So x equals 31. So that's how we would solve that equation. If we have a look at the bottom right, we've got 4x equals 32. Now again, I want to get x by itself. So because I'm multiplying my x with 4, I need to divide by 4 on both sides because I need to do the opposite. So I've got x, and I've got 32 divided by 4. And 32 divided by 4 is 8. So if you're multiplying, you need to divide. If you're adding, you need to subtract, and then vice versa for both operations. So some people have already asked some questions, which is brilliant. Someone's saying, which exam board is it? Well, because we're doing solving equations, these topics actually come up in all exam boards. So it doesn't actually matter which exam board you're studying, because it comes up in AQA, EdXL, OCR, all of them, all of the exam boards you need to know how to solve. And someone said, is this a topic in foundation? Yes, it is. Solving linear equations, this one today, comes up in both foundation and higher. If there is anything which is only one or the other, I will make sure to let you guys know. So let's go on to some example questions. Now, what I would like you guys to do is I'd like you guys to have a go at answering these. So I'm going to label them 1, 2, and 3. And I'd like you guys to try and solve them. And I'd like you to put your answers in the chat just so I can see how everyone is doing and how and if everyone understands what I've explained so far. And I'll try and answer some more questions. So someone asked, can we do a Kahoot? There will be a quiz at the end, like the last 10 to 15 minutes of the session. Exam style questions will be covered throughout the session. So there's no particular time when we're going through exam style questions. They'll be sort of we'll go through them throughout the session. Someone asked, is proof related to this? So yes, proof can be related to any type of question in GCSE math. So it's really good to sort of have a good understanding of the different topics before you start going through proof questions. Will we be using the quadratic formula? We will be going through quadratic equations and the quadratic formula as well on Wednesday. So if that's something you really want to go through, make sure you come to Wednesday session. Right, let's have a look. Let's go through some of these now. So I can see some really good answers in the chat as well. So let's go through the answers for these. So question 1, so solve the equation 4 minus t equals 7. So I want to get t by itself. So I could get rid of the 4. So I would still have minus t on the left-hand side. If I subtract 4 from both sides, I've got minus t equals 7 minus 4. 7 minus 4 is 3. But remember, this is minus t. It isn't t, and we always want to get t by itself. So if I know that minus t equals 3, then that means t equals minus 3. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone. When you're solving, you always want to make sure you have the positive version of the letter and what that equals to, not the negative version of the letter. Right, if we have a look at the next equation, so solve the equation 34 equals 8x minus 6. So the first thing that we should do is we should add 6 to both sides, because this would be the easiest thing to do first. So 34 plus 6 equals 40, and then I'm left with 8x on the right hand side. And then the last thing to do is to get rid of that 8. So I need to divide by 8 on both sides. So I'm left with 40 divided by 8 equals x, and 40 divided by 8 is 5. So x equals 5, or 5 equals x. As long as you've got x equals 5 one way or the other, it doesn't matter which way you write it. And then the last one, 5x plus 7 equals minus 53. We've got, we're going to get rid of that 7 first of all. So we subtract 7 on both sides. So we've got 5x equals minus 53 minus 7. Now minus 53 minus 7 gives you minus 60. So you've got 5x equals minus 60, and then the last thing to do is divide both sides by 5. So then you've got x equals minus 60 over 5. Now a negative number divided by a positive number is going to be a negative number, and 60 divided by 5 is 12. So we're left with minus 12. So x equals minus 12. So well done for everyone who got those answers. I hope that if you didn't, then I hope that the explanation still made sense and you do understand it now. So let's move on. So the next one is now when x is on both sides. So let me zoom in a little bit. Here we go. So when x is on both sides, so the best thing to do is to get all your x's on one side and all your numbers on the other side, and then we will be able to solve for x. So it will end up looking like the ones that we were solving before. So firstly, move all the numbers on one side of the equal sign and letters on the other side, and then continue to solve. Now, the easiest thing, I've put a tip here, the easiest thing to do is to find the smallest x and move it. The reason why I say find the smallest x is because it leaves you with less negative numbers. If I was to move the 6x in this case, then I'd end up with a negative x, and sometimes it gets a little bit more complicated when working with loads of negative numbers. So since I've got 6x and 2x in this equation, the smallest x is 2x, because 2 is smaller than 6. So I'm going to move that one first. So I'm going to subtract 2x on both sides. So now I've got 6x minus 2x minus 5 equals 15. Now 6x minus 2x is 4x. So I've got 4x minus 5 equals 15, and it looks just like the equations we were solving before. So now I'm going to add 5 to both sides. So I've got 4x equals 20 because 15 plus 5 is 20. And then the last thing to do is to divide by 4 on both sides. So we've got x equals 20 divided by 4, and 20 divided by 4 is 5. So x equals 5. So we're going to go through. And what I'd like you guys to do is I would like you to have a go at answering these questions and see what answers you get. Remember, to work with less negative numbers, move the smallest x or move the smallest y in the second case. So have a go at answering these ones. See what answers you get. And I'll try and answer a few more questions. Someone asked, what grade are these questions? Like 1 to 9. So these questions you usually find in the lower grade, so maybe around grade 4, because it comes up in foundation as well as the higher paper. But it's a good place to start, because if you don't understand this, you can't understand the harder questions that we're going to end up going through, which do have higher levels. Someone asked, what is proof? We're not going to cover proof today, but if you're not too sure, proof only comes up in the higher paper. So if you are doing foundation, you won't need to know what proof is anyways. But if you haven't covered it and you are doing the higher paper, I'm sure you will cover it soon. It's just another way of, you're given a question and you're asked to say, why is this the way it is? And then you have to show exactly what it means. Right, seeing some good answers here. Someone said, someone asked in the chat, could you explain how to do it with negative numbers? I will explain it when we go through it, so don't worry about that. Brilliant, seeing some really good answers here. Right, I think it would be good to go through them now. So, let's start with the first one. So remember I was talking about moving the smallest x. Now, when I talk about the smallest x, that also includes negative numbers as well. So here I've got minus 4x and 10x. Now minus 4 is smaller than 10. So I'm going to move my minus 4x. Now because I've got a minus 4x, so really I'm subtracting 4x on the left-hand side. Remember, I need to do the inverse operation. I need to do the opposite. So I need to add 4x to both sides. So on the left-hand side, I'm left with minus 30. On the right-hand side, I've got 10x plus 4x plus 110. Now, 10x plus 4x is 14x. So I've got minus 30 equals 14x plus 110. And then if I write this up here, so I've got a little bit more space, just so everyone can see where I'm going with it. Right, so we're going to solve it just like the ones we were solving before. I want to get rid of that 110. So since I'm adding it, I'm going to subtract it, because I have to do the inverse operation. Now, minus 30 minus 110 is minus 140. So minus 140 equals 14x. And then the last thing I need to do is divide both sides by 14. So I've got minus 140 divided by 14 equals x. Now minus 140 divided by 14 is minus 10. So x equals minus 10 for the first one. And if I change the color to make it a little bit easier to see what the next one is. Now, the next one, we're going to do exactly the same method. We're going to find the smallest y, move that one, and then solve. So I've got minus 10y and I've got minus 21y. Minus 21 is smaller than minus 10 because it's more negative. So that's the one that I want to move. Now remember, I have to do the inverse operation. So I'm going to add 21y to both sides. So I've got minus 10y plus 21y plus 90 equals 2. Now minus 10y plus 21y gives me 11y. So I've got 11y plus 90 equals 2. And then I'm going to subtract 90 from both sides. So I've got 11y gives me 2 minus 90. Now 2 minus 90 is minus 88. So I've got 11y equals minus 88. Then the last thing to do is divide both sides by 11. So I've got y equals minus 88 over 11, and minus 88 over 11 is minus 8. So you should get y equals minus 8 for the last one. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone. There shouldn't be, oh, I think something's happened here. Doesn't seem like this is working at the moment. No problem. I think I should be able to upload it properly so we can still continue. One second, guys, sorry. Let me just upload it so we can continue the session. It shouldn't take too long to do this because I don't think the lesson space, it seems to be working. But hopefully everyone understands what I was going on about with that question. Does anyone have any questions about that? So I don't think anyone did have too many questions about it. So if everyone could just let me know if you can still see the slides, that'd be great. Just tell me in the chat if you can still see the slides. Brilliant, perfect. So we're going to continue. And I can still annotate on this as well, so that's brilliant. So the next thing that we're going to go through is solving when there's brackets involved. Now, the best thing to do when there's brackets involved is to expand the brackets. So in this case, if we have a look, we've got 3 multiplied by x plus 10 equals 63. So the best thing to do is expand the brackets on the left-hand side. Now to expand the brackets, you multiply everything outside with everything inside the bracket. So we've got 3 outside and we've got x plus 10 inside the bracket. So we're going to do 3 times x and then we're going to do 3 times 10. So 3 times x is 3x and 3 times 10 is 30. So now we've expanded the brackets, the right-hand side is exactly the same. And now it looks just like the equations that we've been solving. So I'm going to subtract both sides by 30 to get rid of that 30. So I've got 3x equals 63 minus 30, which equals 33. So 3x equals 33. And then I'd like to ask you guys, what do you think x should be equal to? Brilliant, exactly. We're gonna divide both sides by 3, and 33 divided by 3 is 11. So that's brilliant. Perfect. Right, we're gonna move on then to the next part. Just gonna rub this out quickly. Right, perfect. So someone is saying slow down. Just a reminder, it is being recorded, so you can always watch it back if there is anything that you have missed out. So just trying to get through everything. I'm not going to go really slowly, but I will try not to go too fast at the same time. Now, with this, what I'd like you guys to do is I'd like you to have a go at answering these two questions for me. So the last question is quite tricky. I'd like you guys to carefully expand the brackets and check that you've expanded them properly, and then go ahead and solve. So I'd like everyone to have a go and make sure you put your answers in the chat, please, so I can see how everyone's doing. Someone asked, is this lesson only for foundation students? No, anyone doing maths GCSE needs to know how to solve. So it's not just for foundation students. It's for everyone. And if you're a higher student who does find solving hard, this is a really important lesson because solving comes up in nearly every single topic as well. So it is really important, even though it is a little bit easier than some of the topics we will be going through, it's important for everyone to have the right basis in solving. What other questions does this come up in? It can come up in problem solving, which is what we're going to get onto in a couple of minutes. Problem solving can include anything from triangles to like anything in geometry to fractions to probability. It doesn't matter which topic really you're studying. As long as you have problem solving, algebra can come up in pretty much any sort of subtopic in maths. Someone asked, what's the best maths textbook that I would recommend? I'm gonna have a think about that. There will be a revision session on the 28th. That's a revision session with like maths and English, different subjects. I will be talking about recommended books, resources, websites, and all of those things. So any revision sort of questions you have, then make sure to turn up to the 28th, the session on the 28th, and I will give a whole load of resources and whatnot that would be really helpful for everyone. Someone asked, could you, with the other question, the previous one that we did, could you not have divided 3 at the start? Yes, you could have. Just for the sake of doing one method, just to show everyone, you can divide by 3 at the start. The only thing is, if the right hand side wasn't a multiple of 3, you would have already started with a fraction. So that would have made it a little bit harder for you to continue solving. So usually it is a little bit easier to expand the brackets first so that you have whole numbers, and then continue to solve and end up with a fraction as your answer. So it's easier to work with whole numbers first and get your answer as a fraction rather than working with fractions, because you're more likely to make mistakes. Right, let's have a look. So let's have a look at this question. So we're going to expand the brackets first. So we're going to do 2 times 3 and then 2 times 2x. So 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 2x is 4x. And this equals to 18. Now I want to get rid of my 6, so I'm going to subtract 6 on both sides. So I've got 4x equals 18 minus 6. 18 minus 6 is 12. And then the last thing to do is to divide by 4 on both sides. So I've got x equals 12 divided by 4, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. So that should be your first answer. The next one is a little bit longer because you have to expand 2 different brackets. So we're going to expand the first one first. So I've got 3 times 2x, which is 6x. And then 3 times 12, which is 36. Then on the right hand side, I'm going to expand these brackets as well. So I've got 2 times 2x, which is 4x. 2 times minus 10, which is minus 20. And then it looks sort of similar to the questions that we had when you have x on both sides. So I'm going to look for the smallest x and move that one. So the smallest one between 6 and 4 is 4. So I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. So I've got 6x minus 4x plus 36 equals minus 20. And then 6x minus 4x is 2x. So I've got 2x plus 36 equals minus 20. And then I can continue to solve. So I'm going to subtract 36 on both sides. So I've got 2x equals minus 20 minus 36, which is minus 56. And then the last thing to do is to divide both sides by 2. Now, minus, if I write divide by 2 first. So we've got x equals, and then minus 56 divided by 2 is minus 28. So that should be your answer for the second one. Brilliant. I hope that makes sense to everyone. I'm just going to look if there are a few more questions. Cool. Right, so there are a few questions, but not necessarily about this. So let's move on to the next thing. So what we're going to move on to next, just getting rid of all of this. Sorry, it's a little bit of a pain. But what we're going to move on to next is fractions. Now, I know that last time I went through, some people did have quite a number of questions about how to solve with fractions. After fractions, we will get on to problem solving. I know a lot of you are very eager to look at some of the problem solving questions. Don't worry, we will get to it before we go on to the quiz. We should do the quiz at around 1 o'clock, right? Before we get on to problem solving, we are going to have a look at fractions. So some equations involve fractions with terms. So to solve them, just like all the other questions that we've been doing, you do the inverse operation. Now, a lot of you will probably be able to have a look at this and be able to tell me what x is straight away. But for those of you who might find it a bit more difficult, remember we want to get x by itself. So the thing that we should do to get x by itself is get rid of this 8. If I am dividing 8 on the left-hand side, I need to do the inverse operation. So I need to multiply both sides by 8. So I'm left with x equals 3 times 8. Now 3 times 8 is 24, and that's how we solve when you have fractions. So remember, the opposite or the inverse operation, yeah? So if you're dividing, that means to get rid of it, you multiply it. That's the only thing that we need to do differently with fractions. So we are going to have a look at some example questions, which I'm going to ask you to have a go at. Now, these ones are a little bit more complicated than the one that we just went through, but there's nothing different in the method. So have a go at answering these questions and we'll go through them in a few minutes once I think everyone's sort of had a go. Right, some people are asking what will we do tomorrow? Tomorrow we're going to have a look at simultaneous equations. Someone asked, will we only be doing algebra? Well, it's solving. So yeah, the next 3 days will be just solving. So it is pretty much algebra, but it will get more tricky. I know some of you are saying that it's really easy. This session is the basis of what you need to know to be able to do the next 2 sessions. So just for everyone who might not be on the same level, it's good to start somewhere where everyone will be able to progress at the same time with, I guess. That's actually a good question someone asked. Do you need to do further maths A-level in order to do something like Cambridge Engineering or maths in Cambridge? It helps. It helps to be able to do further maths A-level. However, I'm doing a master's in maths at Russell Group University. But I actually never did further maths A-level, and I'm doing pretty well in my degree. So it's not an absolute necessity to do further maths A-level, but it definitely helps. It does help because it sort of fills in some of the gaps. And someone asked, what do I do at university? I study for my master's degree in maths at university. So let's have a look at some of these answers and then we'll move on to problem solving, which a lot of you are eager to get to. So the first question, we've got w plus 3 over 4 equals 6. So first thing that we want to do is get rid of this fraction. So to do that, we're going to multiply both sides by 4 because that's the opposite of dividing by 4. So now we've got w plus 3 equals 6 times 4, which is 24. And then the last thing to do is to subtract both sides by 3. So w equals 21. So that would be our first answer. And I know quite a lot of you got that. So brilliant. The next one is very, very similar. We're going to multiply by 4 again on both sides because we're dividing by 4 on one side. So we've got 2 minus 5z equals 8 times 4. 8 times 4 is 32. Then I'm going to get rid of that 2. So I'm going to subtract 2 on both sides. So I've got minus 5z equals 32 minus 2, which is 30. And then the last thing to do is to divide by minus 5 on both sides because I want to get z by itself. So I've got z equals 30 divided by minus 5. Now 30 divided by minus 5 gives me minus 6. So z equals minus 6. So brilliant. Well done for everyone who got this one. Perfect. Right. Remember, if there is any questions you have about any of these, make sure to put them in the Q&A. If you put them in the chat, I might see them, I might not, just because there's so many people using the chat. So try and make sure you're using the Q&A because it's a little bit easier for me to see any questions you're asking. Right, problem solving. Now, problem solving comes up in many different types. They can come up, as I said, in geometry, or they could come up in just normal word-based questions like this. What I'd like you guys to do is have a read of this question and have a go at answering it. Now, the best way to do this question is to read it, understand it, and then form the equation first, and then solve that equation that you formed, and then you'll be able to answer it a little bit better. I like everyone to have a go at answering this question. Someone asked, will it be the same Zoom code for the rest of the days? Yes, it will be. It will be the same Zoom code for the next 3 days. And someone noticed the Christmas sort of theme question. It is based on Home Alone. Well done for spotting it. Right. So how is everyone doing with this? So some people have gotten an answer already. That's brilliant. So someone asked, what is the topic called? What is the topic in general called? This is solving linear equations. So all of the equations that we're going through today are all linear equations. Someone asked, is it the same time tomorrow? Yep, it's the same time for all 3 days, all the days up until Wednesday for maths, 12:15. Some of you giving some good answers. Right, just for time's sake, let's start going through this one together. So well done for those of you who have already started it. And for those of you who aren't too sure, we're going to go through it now. So we've got Kevin McAllister is years old. His dad, Peter, is 5 times older than him, and Buzz, his brother, is 7 years older than Kevin. So the total of their ages is 63 years. Work out the age of each person. So first of all, Kevin is Y. His dad is 5 times older than Kevin, which means that 5 times Y is 5Y. And Buzz is 7 years older than Kevin. So 7 years older than Kevin just means Y plus 7. Now, they told us that the total of their ages is 63. So if I added all of their ages together, this gives me 63. So this is the equation that we would have had needed to have formed. Now, this equation looks a little bit trickier than the ones that we looked at before, but the best thing to do is just simplify the left-hand side, collect the like terms, and then it will look just like something we've already solved. So we've got a Y, we've got 5Y, and we've got another Y. Collecting those terms, we're going to get 7Y, and we've got 7Y plus 7 equals 63. So to solve this, we need to subtract 7 from both sides. So we've got 7Y equals 63 minus 7, which is 56. So then dividing both sides by 7, 56 divided by 7 is 8. So Y equals 8. So brilliant for those of you who got Y equals 8. That's amazing. But the question isn't asking what is Y. The question is asking to work out the age of each person. So now I know how old Kevin is, because Kevin is Y years old, so Kevin is 8. Peter, we know, was 5 times older than Kevin. So Peter is 5 times 8. So Peter is 40. And then Buzz is 7 years older than Kevin. So 8 plus 7 is 15. So brilliant for everyone who got those ones right. Perfect. Now, we have got another example question that we're going to go through in terms of problem solving just before we get onto the quiz in about 10 minutes. And the next question that we're going to go through is very typical to come up in a GCSE maths paper. And this is actually very similar to a past paper exam question, which has come up before. So the diagram shows a rectangular dinner table, and the sides are measured in centimeters. Work out the length and width of the dinner table. So we've got this dinner table, and they've given us 5x plus 3 on one side, 3x plus 9 on the other, and then the width, so 2x. So the hint that I've given you is think about the properties of a rectangle. Now, because they're asking to work out the length and the width, what they really want is actual numbers, not x's, not in terms of x. So have a go at solving it. Try and use my hint, and we will go through this question in a second if you are absolutely not too sure how to do it. But I'd like you guys to have a go and see what answers you get. Some people have already got answers, which is brilliant. So someone asked what time does the lesson end? It ends at 1:15. So it's an hour long. So someone said, if I use trial and error, will I still get marks for it? That's a good question. Not necessarily. It depends how much so for those students who haven't looked at mark schemes before, I'll sort of briefly explain to you how mark schemes sort of work in maths. So you get method marks, so showing your method, you get accuracy marks for getting the actual answer, and you can also get follow through marks in case your questions depend on other questions you've done in the paper and whether you got those wrong and whatnot. Now, if your question is only worth about 1 or 2 marks, it's usually accuracy marks that you get. So if you get the answer correct, then they'll just give you the full marks for it. But if your questions are like 4 or 5 marks, especially if they ask you to show your working as well, you will not get full marks if you get the right answer. You have to make sure that you show your working out, because that's the only way how you get working or method marks, as they call it. You have to show your method that you're using. You have to show your working out. So I would always say, always put down your working out. Try not to use trial and error, because trial and error doesn't, sometimes you make more mistakes when using trial and error method. So always try and show like a logical way of thinking and show them how you've sort of gotten to your answer using a particular algebraic method that you've learned in school. But again, if you're not too sure how to answer a question, it's always good to give it a go rather than leaving it blank, because you might pick up 1 or 2 marks here or there. But yeah, only because you get the right answer doesn't necessarily mean that you get full marks. So be careful when you're answering questions as well. Will every lesson be an hour long? Yes, they will be. So today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, they're all 1 hour lessons. Right, so some of you are getting really good answers, but a lot of you are forgetting one thing. And I'll give you a hint of what some of you are forgetting. Units. It tells you what the unit should be. Brilliant, yeah, perfect. So that's another thing to pick up with as well. Some questions might not give you the units in your answers, and we're going to go through this question now, just so we have enough time to go through the quiz as well at the end. Right, so let's have a look at this. Now, the hint that I gave you was that think about the properties of a rectangle. Now, remember, rectangles, the opposite sides on a rectangle are exactly the same in length, yeah? So that means that 5x plus 3 is exactly the same length as 3x plus 9. So that's the first equation that we're going to write down and solve. 5x plus 3 equals 3x plus 9. Now remember, this just looks just like some of the equations we were looking at before. It's just getting to this point, which is usually the harder point and the harder part of the question for a lot of people. Just get into this part, because once you get to this part, it's a little bit easier as long as you know how to solve. So the best thing to do to avoid working with negatives, look for the smallest x. So it's between 5 and 3. 3 is smaller, so we're going to move our 3x. So we're going to take away 3x on both sides. So we've got 5x minus 3x plus 3 equals 9. 5x minus 3x gives me 2x. So I've got 2x plus 3 equals 9. And then I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. So I've got 2x equals 9 minus 3, which is 6. And then if I write it over here, just so you can see my last step, then we're going to divide by 2 on both sides to get x by itself. So x equals 6 divided by 2, which is 3. So x is 3. But the question isn't asking me to find out what x is, it's to work out what is the length and the width of the dinner table. Now the width is 2x. So if x is 3, 2x is going to be 6. So I've got 6 centimeters for my width. And then my length, you can either use the equation 5x plus 3 or 3x plus 9. If we use 3x plus 9, 3 times 3 is 9, plus 9 is 18. So this would be 18 centimeters. And if you did 5x plus 3, it would be 5 times 3, which is 15, plus 3 is 18 again. So it doesn't matter which one you use. But as long as you use one of them, you work out the length and you make sure you put centimeters on the end. If this was, well, this was actually past paper exam question, a lot of students missed out 1 mark just by forgetting to put centimeters on the end of their answer. So try not to miss out on those marks when you are doing these questions. Now, what we are going to do quickly before we move on to the quiz is just have a look at some tips that I've got for you guys. So when there are x's on both sides, it's easier to move the smallest one. So all of the equations that we've been going through, I have moved the smallest x just to avoid us using so many negative numbers in our calculations. Also, always do the same operation on both sides. Sometimes students forget, if I'm subtracting 4 on the left hand side, I have to subtract 4 on the right hand side. Don't forget to do the same operation on both sides. And when one side of the fraction of the equal sign is when one side of the equal sign is a fraction, get rid of the denominator first. So remember, if you're dividing, the opposite of dividing is multiplying. It's so much easier when you're not working with fractions, you're only working with whole number terms. So you're less likely to make mistakes. So what we're going to do now is we are going to move on to our quiz. So I'm going to share this screen. Hopefully everyone can see the quiz, the link to Kahoot. So for those of you who haven't used Kahoot before, and just go into www.kahoot.it and then put in the game pin and choose a nickname or whatnot, and you can join the session. And then after a little while, I will start the quiz once enough people have joined in. Also, if you have any questions that you have throughout or that you've had which I haven't answered yet, just put it into the Q&A, and I'll be answering the Q&A questions as we're going through the quiz as well. Someone asked how many marks is a dinner table question. That dinner table question is worth between 4 and 5 marks. 1 mark was for putting down centimeters as well. So the calculation part was pretty much like a 3/4 marks. Someone asked, do you have to come every day? It would be nice if you did. But if you're 100% confident with simultaneous equations and 100% confident with quadratic equations, then you might feel as if you don't need to come. But again, just to test yourself, I would say come either way, just to see whether you are 100% confident or not. Because some of the questions that we will be going through will be tricky. Right, quite a lot of you have entered. I am going to start it. However, the pin will still be at the bottom part of the screen, just in case you haven't logged in. Also, it's in the chat as well. So if you haven't logged in yet, but you still would like to, then you will be able to throughout the quiz. But I'm going to start it now. So linear equations. So first of all, solve this equation for me. So someone asked with the dinner table question, do you need to do anything with the 2x's on the side? The 2x's were useful to work out what the width was, but in terms of solving the equation, the 2x didn't need to be included. Right, brilliant. Well done for those of you who got y equals 16. Remember, 8y equals 128. What you need to do is divide both sides by 8. 128 divided by 8 is 16. So well done for those of you who got that. So brilliant. Well done for the top 5. Right, have a go at solving this equation for me. So some of you are asking, could we just put the answers in the Q&A? By all means, if you can't log into Kahoot and you're finding a little bit of difficulties with that, definitely put it in the chat, because I'm still checking the chat and the Q&A as well. So don't worry, you can still participate. Well done for those of you who got t equals 9. Now remember, get rid of that 56 first, or that minus 56 first. Opposite of taking away 56 is adding it. Add 56 onto both sides. So you get 108 on the right hand side, because 52 plus 56 is 108. Then 108 divided by 12 gives you 9. So t should equal 9. Well done for everyone who got that one. Brilliant. Well done to the top 5. True or false? The solution to 6x minus 1 equals 19 is 3. True or false? Someone did ask, can I go over one more question of the same type? Tomorrow, I will be doing a quick recap at the beginning of the session. So I will go through sort of like a similar question to what we did today, just so everyone can sort of practice again. Right, brilliant, it is false. If I add 1 to both sides, I get rid of that minus 1 on the left hand side, and then I get 20 on the right hand side. So I got 6x equals 20. Now, if x was 3, 6 times 3 is 18, not 20. So x cannot be equal to 3. That should be false. Brilliant. Oops, sorry, I went a bit too quick, but well done for the top 5. I'd like you guys to try and solve this one for me. So a quick hint. If you've got brackets, sometimes it's easier to expand them first. So someone asked, would that be on the higher paper? Someone asked that in the chat. Yes, in the higher paper, for those of you who might have gone through past papers before, the first few questions are quite simple. Sometimes you get questions like this on the first page of your paper. So it's not only strictly for foundation level students, it is for higher level students as well. And you might get asked in your higher paper. Brilliant, y equals 3. Now, if you expand the brackets, you get 15y minus 55. Then you add 55 onto both sides and you divide by 15. So you should get y equals 3. Brilliant. So well done for the top 5. Right, have a go at solving this one for me. So just continuing what I was saying before in terms of the higher paper and the foundation paper. Higher paper questions always include solving somewhere. And it doesn't mean that the solving questions have to be particularly tricky. They could just be in terms of the worded problems you went through today, or the problem solving questions like that dinner table question. And they can be worded in a tricky way, but not necessarily hard to solve once you understand what the question is asking from you. And all of the things that we've gone through today will come up in the next 2 days. So on Tuesday and Wednesday, because solving simultaneous equations, you need to be able to solve linear equations before you can solve simultaneous. So it is quite important. Right. Well done for those who got y equals minus 8. Now remember, get all your y's on one side, all your numbers on the other side. If I look for the smallest y and I move that, I'm going to move my 5y. So I'm going to subtract 5y by both sides. So you're going to get 2y on the left-hand side and minus 16 on the right-hand side. And then you divide both sides by 2. So y equals minus 8. So brilliant. Well done for the top 5. Positions are changing quite quickly. So we're halfway through. solve the following. So have a look at that image and try and figure out what is x going to be. So what answer do you think the answer should be, guys? Brilliant. X is 13. So if I get that question back up quickly, remember we've got a fraction on the left hand side. So to get rid of that 3, to get rid of my fraction, I need to multiply by 3 on both sides. So 10 times 3 is 30, and then we solve. Take away 4, you get 26, and then divide by 2, you get 13. So brilliant. Well done, everyone, and well done for the top 5 for that one. Right, have a go at solving this one. So be careful with this one. Brilliant, x is 4. Right, I want to get rid of that fraction. So the only way to get rid of that fraction is to multiply, to get rid of my denominator, multiply both sides by x. So I'm left with 12 equals 3x. And then you divide both sides by 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So x equals 4. Another thing, if some of you guys are just really confident with your fractions and just confident with numbers in general, you could have realized that 12 divided by something gives me 3. The only thing that you could divide 12 by to give you 3 is 4. So that's how some of you might have worked that one out as well. But well done. Well done, everyone, and the top 5. So this one's worth double the points. So have a go at solving the following. So remember, guys, if you do have any questions, make sure to put them in the Q&A. Just going to check it now. Will we do a Kahoot tomorrow as well? Yes, we'll do a Kahoot on Tuesday and Wednesday, just to sort of sum up everything that we've gone through in the lesson. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. I know some of you really do enjoy it. So someone asked, what job would I like to do with my maths degree? To be fair, I've always loved teaching, so being a teacher is an option. Also, I really like statistics, so also maybe a statistician. I'm still not 100% decided. And then someone, I'll answer that question in a second, but brilliant, x equals minus 14. If you have a look at this, remember, expand both brackets first. Now, I know some of you like to divide by that number, but because we've got brackets on both sides, it's just easier to expand both sides first. Look for the smallest x, move it, and then solve. So you should get x equals minus 14. Brilliant. Right, well done for the top 5. We are nearly finished. This one is also double points. This one's very similar to the last one. Expand the brackets first. Have a go at answering this. I know that someone did ask a question about what different careers could you do if you do a maths degree at uni. The answer is too many. You can walk into a lot of different careers if you take a maths degree. You could become a teacher. You could go into, a lot of math students actually end up in the finance sector. So they end up as accountants or like people working in finance, working for banks, working for corporate companies. You can end up in actuary. If you're not too sure what actuary is, that's actuaries work in insurance companies. Well done. X is -24. So remember, expand those brackets first, and don't forget about that -10. That -10 is really important. So once you've expanded it, simplify it, and then look for the smallest x, move it, and solve. Right, brilliant. Well done to the top 5. I know we're a little bit over, but this is the last question, worth double the points. It is a problem-solving question, so read it carefully. The length of the rectangle below is 25 centimeters. Is that true or false? Have a look, have a read, and have a go. But yes, to answer your question, there are loads of different careers you can go into in maths. A bit too many. Someone asked, do you do exams at uni and do you get marks as well? Yes. If you take a maths degree at uni, you will 100% end up taking some form of exams. Some courses, not maths related, but some courses are more or less coursework based, but maths and I think all STEM subjects like science, technology, maths, they are all exam based, and you do get marks as well for them, and your degree classification at the end depends on the marks that you get in your exams. So yeah, someone said that their mum is an accountant, she got a master's degree, so you can become an accountant with maths. You can be loads of different things. A lot of students, they either go into finance or they go into technology. A lot of them end up as like software engineers as well, mathematicians. Brilliant, it is true. Let's have a quick look at it. Now, if we have a look, the perimeter is 72, meaning that if I add up all my sides, I get 72. So to form the equation, you're going to do 2x plus 3 plus another 2x plus 3, because remember, two sides of a rectangle are equal in length, and then you plus x and plus another x, that equals 72. You simplify it, you solve for x, and then remember, we're looking for the length of the triangle. Now they've told us the length is 2x plus 3. So once you found out what x is, you substitute it into 2x plus 3, and you get 25 centimeters. So brilliant. Well done for all of those who got that question. Well done for everyone for participating. Well done for third place, Mike Hock. Second place, Fat Donster. And first place, Kessia. I hope I pronounced everyone's name correct as well. And runners up as well, Eastad and Jerison. So well done, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the session today. Tomorrow we will go through a quick recap, and then we will go on to simultaneous equations. There will be some content in there which is only for higher GCSE students as well, but I will make it very, very clear what everyone needs to know and for what exam it's for as well. So I hope you guys have a good rest of the day, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.